Tito, Chris has talked a lot about the continuity of your roster. I mean, you have some key free agents, but just what is that feeling knowing the size of the group that you do have coming?
I mean, we've had that core, and this will be our sixth year together, which is in baseball is a lot, and I think it's an advantage. You know, how many times you heard me say it? Whatever we do, we try to turn it into an advantage. If it's a new guy, you know, you want to get to know them well and they fit in quick. But the guys that we've had, you want it to not be where, okay, it's same old. It's no, we're together. We know how we want to do things, and we can get after it and actually maybe do more in less time because everybody knows what's expected.
Yeah, there's that fine line in conflict.
I mean, you know, you have a lot of guys coming back. Some of them not quite sure exactly where they might end up playing. Cherney said yesterday it's not challenging because you like what you do have, but it makes it a little bit complex. You kind of started in your mind just formulating ideas.
Well, ideas, but I mean, we don't know. Like with Kip, what we know is when healthy, we have a really good player. We don't quite know where he's going to play yet. So what we need to do is get our house in order, let Chris and Cherney and those guys do their thing, and then communicate to Kip, because that's fair to him, so he can get ready for the year. And that's what we always do. And normally guys are pretty receptive when you're honest and you talk to them, and not just talk but listen. I think they're usually pretty receptive.
It's easier since it's guys who have been around for a long time. You know well.
I think that we've been together now, like I said, going on our sixth year. I think they know we're always going to be honest with them. And it's the same coming back. You know, not everything is rosy and you have to deliver tough messages sometimes, or guys are going down. But the guys that we're talking about, whether it's Kip or Tomlin or Brantley or the guys, we know them too, and we value them a lot. They're honest, they try hard, you know, like Cody and Andrew. I mean, if you have a problem, you talk to them. It's easy.
I think you've talked about this before, this time of year. Names get brought up all the time.
I can't hear you.
Sorry. This time of year. Remember what I said. This time of year, a lot of names get brought up, and certainly a lot of rumors out there. Do you ever worry that the wrong message might get sent to a player if his name gets brought up in a conversation or a rumor or a report or anything like that? Do you ever feel the need to reach out and maybe reaffirm somebody, or at least communicate on some level?
I got it now.
Oh, I thought you were going to answer it. Yeah, sometimes. I don't see everything that's out there because I don't look. Maybe I should. There's been a time or two where I think I've reached out to guys. Just if I knew that it was one that was going to bother them, and two, it wasn't remotely true. But for the most part, I think players are savvy enough now. They've come up in this era of internet and all this stuff that, you know, the social media, they're more savvy with it than I am. So, not really. I think our guys are okay.
It seems like every year we hear about trade rumors involving new location, and understandably so. But how hard would it be to trade away from that aspect, given that it's kind of the backbone of your team?
How many trades have you seen?
Yeah.
None. I mean, I wouldn't blame teams to come to the meetings and ask us about our pitching, because we think we have pretty good pitching. But you haven't seen any of them leave either. We value it a lot. And unless somebody just knocks your doors off, we plan on keeping them.
Tito, Mickey has tried very hard to make a good first impression with the Mets, obviously. Come across as very nice, says caring about the players. I'm wondering from your perspective, he says he's not always like that. Is there something from your perspective, you remember him having kind of an edge, or being a kind of more of a harder guy than he comes off as?
No, I think he's a great guy. I mean, I think we all get competitive during a game, but I don't think that makes you ever quit caring about players. Sometimes you have to deliver a tough message. He can do that. That doesn't mean you don't care. That's why you do it. I think Mickey's a star. I think once he made it known he wanted to manage, it was a matter of time until we lost him. take the 5 years we had with him and be happy for it because we're all better for it. But he's going to be terrific at whatever he does.
When in your mind did you think you had something special there?
When we interviewed him, because I didn't know him. And he grew on us quickly and myself. And then the first year, he had more confidence than a first-year pitching coach should. And it wasn't by a mistake or wasn't, you know, he just, game slowed down for him. He was confident in his abilities. And he did a really good job. And it just continued.
He said you told him if he needs any help with anything or has questions throughout the season, whenever, to reach out. Just how much fun has it been for you kind of walking him through the process, everything he'll go through?
It's fun to see guys go through their firsts. I mean, you know, we just came back from a golf tournament at Pebble. We were together. So we had 4 days where we don't talk much about other than baseball. And it's fun to see him so excited. And he's kind of going through that kind of honeymoon phase, which is good. And he's excited. Everything's pretty rosy, but it's exciting to see him feel that way. We're all proud of him. You go from not knowing a guy to then almost feeling like he's your brother a couple of years later. That's a good feeling.
You know, have you thought about having Cora, Kapler, Roberts, Cash, guys who played for you, now managing?
Well, I mean, the guys, you know, like Cora and Gabe and you know, I mean, Cashy coached with me, and those other guys didn't. I think they were, you could see by the way they went about the game, that if they wanted to stay in the game, they could. You know, you just don't know in today's game if guys maybe want to put up with the aggravation that it takes to become a manager because of the money they made. But some of the guys are kind of shortcutting the, you know, it's not necessarily the route that some of us took. It doesn't mean they won't be really good because they're obviously really qualified.
What are your options at third base right now?
Right now, could be Jose Ramirez, could be Yandy, Urshela. I mean, nothing's really changed from the last game of the season. But, you know, we don't know until we fill out our roster, and then we'll kind of figure out where are we best suited. Are we best suited keeping Jose at second? Do we put him back at third? Put Kip at second? Those are the things we will answer. We haven't answered them yet. It's nice to know you have some flexibility.
Yandy really started to blossom down the stretch a little bit, start to show some of the things that you guys knew was in there. Was that a confidence thing? Was it just experience? What do you think?
You know what? I would think some of it's confidence. That's why it's so hard it's hard to communicate with guys when they're that limited in English and I'm that limited in Spanish, because you really can't always answer the questions like you'd like. You're a little bit at arm's length, and I hate it. You've heard me say it before. He's a really good hitter. The rest of his game is catching up. It's not quite as advanced as his hitting. But when a guy can hit like that, you certainly like to try to take the time to let his game catch up because of his value just as a hitter.
In a perfect world, is Salazar, where do you see Salazar? In a bullpen?
Rotation. Yeah. And we've seen him do it not just, you know, how many times, like when Kluber won the Cy Young, we're like, okay, great, now you got to do it again. And he's turned into that guy, you know, 5 years in a row now, man. He goes out there and it's 200 innings, and it's pretty impressive. Carrasco has started to do that now. Trevor started to do that now. We're still working through that with Danny. You know, he shows at times what he can do, but we're still trying to get to the consistency where we know we can put his name in and go get him.
Do you feel with Danny similar to you did with Carrasco at one point, where I remember you said, like, you would hate to trade him and see him blossom somewhere else? Do you have a similar feeling?
Heck yeah. I mean, we've certainly had our frustrations at times, but if you get too frustrated and send him somewhere else, and he ends up being the guy that you were hoping because you weren't patient enough, that would be troubling.
I know you said before you need 2 or 3 guys to fill what Shaw did. Just how do you feel about the guys that you have already just in place?
Well, we have some good guys in place. I mean, we got Cody and Andrew that are, have done it and have been terrific, and guys like Otero that are sort of under the radar. Zach McAllister. We have guys that can do it. We are going to have to add some more guys before we start the season. I mean, losing Shaw is a big loss for us. Not just in volume, but in volume and guy being good. But we have guys that can do it. We're not done.
Obviously, Dallas is playing in Boston. What advice would you give them about
I don't think I would. I don't think guys need advice. I mean, there's a reason that somebody hired him. You know, they felt like he was ready, and he's been there. You know, part of the fun of this game is you do things how you want to do it, not like he wants or he thinks I would want him to do it. You know, I think there's a reason guys become managers because they keep their eyes open a lot already, and you kind of take what you want in. You don't need to sit and listen to somebody tell you how to do things.
As nice as it is to see Cora and Kapler get the jobs, how tough is it to see John go through what he did?
John, well, it happens to most everybody. That wasn't their fault. I mean, in this game, you have a chance to be told to move on. That's, you know, I've always felt like owners, it's not just their right, but it's their, to have the guy they think is the best for that team. Sometimes it's not you. Most people go through difficult times. It's just the nature of the job.
Better are you next time around?
A lot of it depends on who the players are. You know, I mean, I don't know that I view being a good manager with your one-loss record. You know, in Major League Baseball it's not an even playing field. So you see guys like Millsy when he was in Houston. I thought Millsy's a good manager. You know, his record wasn't very good. Probably outworked everybody in the league. You know, you see Kevin Cash in Tampa. He's a good manager. You know, they haven't had the talent to stack up yet with the other teams. So I don't necessarily think because you have a losing record means you're not a good manager or you don't know what you're doing.
Is there more asked of a manager now than when you started?
Yes.
With that?
Yeah, there's more to pay attention to. And if you don't, shame on you. Because you know, if you're asked to make a decision, there's more to look at now, so you can make a decision not based on guessing. You know, you're always going to rely on people because that's part of what we do. But there's just so much good information out there. It helps make your decisions.
You're familiar with Paulo Santana's numbers. What kind of presence does he bring to the club?
Rarely do you see, at least in my time, guys change in the middle of their career. I mean, he could get kind of surly at times and get a little consumed with how he was doing. And about the halfway mark of the last couple of years, he's a better teammate, better person. He turned himself into a very good first baseman. He's hard not to like, lovable. You see him before the games come up and kissing you on the head and got handshakes with everybody, and he's a great kid. I don't think he's going to be a great kid whether he's in Cleveland or Boston or New York. That's just, and I think he's worked at it, and I think it's really paid off.
If he isn't back, do you think you have the guys to play first? Do you think you have the other?
Well, I mean, we got Edwin that we can certainly put there. We could put Lonnie there if we want. I mean, we have guys we could. I think we'd probably like to sign somebody. I don't think, these meetings, everybody's in one place, so everybody expects everything's going to happen. It's not always the case. Sometimes it is, but sometimes you build some beginnings of things that maybe it happens now, maybe it happens later.
With Jose, I mean, he obviously was good at third, he was good at second. Do you have a preference?
In my opinion, his best position is second. He's a good third baseman. So I think what it comes down to is where's our best team? Because he can handle both. But if you just press me on it, I would say his best position is second.
I feel like if Kip moved to left and played outfield, that him doing that is the offense that he contributes. And you look at his offense at second base, translates to quick. You moved him to a corner. Do you think, if healthy, him doing that is?
You know what? I think rather than worry about that, I mean, Kip's going to be in our lineup somewhere. So I guess I look at it more in team numbers. So, you know, as a team, you have to score a certain amount of runs. So whether he's at second or left, I mean, I get your point. Some guys don't profile maybe, but he's in our lineup regardless. So whether you get it at second base or catcher, or you got to get it, then it's got to add up to a certain amount.
Very rare. You talk about all these your former players who are now managing around the game. Do every one of these guys you see at some point when they were playing and you saw that ability in them?
Oh boy, I remember when Cashy was playing, I was hoping that it would start like now. Every time I hit him, I was like, man, he wish he was a coach. You know, they all paid attention. They all, you know, I was probably tougher on Cora than a lot of other guys because I expected him to be on time, to be where he's supposed to be, because that's the type of guy he was. But he always paid attention. You know, I rode Cashy hard, but also loved when he was catching. You know, you lose Veritek for a week, Cashy could go out there and he might not get any hits, but your team might go 6-1. You know, that wasn't by luck. So the guys have a lot of the same characteristics, even though they're different people.
How proud are you?
Very, very, very proud. I mean, they've all grown up and moved on, but, you know, you in this game, when you move on, doesn't mean you quit caring about people. All right.
You know, earlier you talked about today's player and how savvy they are. How savvy were you walking into your first major league clubhouse in 1980?
Not very. But there wasn't social media either. I mean, there was so much less to be consumed with. There was the Baseball Weekly, or whatever they called it then. You know, it didn't have cell phones. You know, it was easier. It was easier to be young than it is now. I think in general, not just in baseball. But I would say I was not very savvy.